All right.
Camera
Lights,
1 check.
camera, action.
Camera 2 check. Oh wow, we have 2 cameras set up now.
Yeah, baby.
Crazy.
All right, let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Startup Operator Roundup. I'm Roshan
And I'm Gunjan Saha, and together we break down the biggest headlines from India's growing startup ecosystem. It's been a while since we recorded a roundup. Both of us were traveling in and around Kerala. Roshan, how was the trip for you?
In and around Kerala. Okay. Yeah, it's been a fun few weeks, I should say, with the Diwali holidays and whatnot. Right? I mean, someone I know is traveling for the rest of the year. In fact, one of them is in the frame actually, and it's not me. So, yeah.
Even a producer.
What? That is news to me anyway. So, all right, let's get on with the bunch of things that we have to discuss, right?
There's some really cool headlines. Well, starting off, of course, Swiggy IPO. This was India's second largest IPO this year.
Ka-ching.
Then, of course, if Swiggy is on the news, Zomato will not be silent. They have announced a bunch of updates on their platform. Freshworks has also been on the news, both for good and not so good reasons. They are doing a massive ESOP buyback round, but at the same time, letting a lot of their employees go. A lot of folks from the startup ecosystem have voiced their opinions on that. We'll be discussing them. ISRO has announced a new partnership with IIT Madras. Well, not that the college had any dearth of innovation going on, but now ISRO joins the bandwagon as well. And Elon Musk's Starlink has been seeking permission from the Indian government for security clearance to launch satellite broadband in the country. That aside, Stowa, which really made headlines during the lockdown for offering an alternate MBA program, they have decided to shut down shops and, we bid them farewell. So stay tuned as we discuss all these headlines, and we hope you like this new camera setup. Hope this makes it for a much more immersive experience.
Immersive experience. Wow.
Okay, but wait, before all of these, the US elections.
Man, I'm so glad it's done.
It's finally over.
God.
But it was pretty kind of known that Donald Trump would be taking the presidency.
There is a theory that all the tech folks kind of figured this out early, right? Whether it is Zuck or whether it is Sundar Pichai and so on. They kind of figured that which way the wind is blowing and sort of pivoted their positions, right? But
Elon used to earlier voice his opinions against Trump, if you remember the last election cycle. But this time he was pro-Trump.
I don't want to make it an election deep dive or analysis, but this time I think the key thing is Donald Trump has swung a lot of folks who are centrists or even leftists to the side of the Republican Party, right? I mean, it's pretty fascinating. And for me, I think the man of the hour, aside from Donald Trump, is Elon, man. I mean, I think he was perhaps the most consequential guy in this election, right? Yeah. To swing it in, President Trump's favor for sure, right? I mean, of course, we're talking about a guy who took a bullet in his ear and whatnot, but still, that aside, right? President Trump aside, I think Elon buying Twitter, I think was like a watershed moment, right? And not just that, once he got behind Trump, right? Whether it is, reaching out to all of these young males and getting them to vote, or whether it is doing all these rallies in Pennsylvania and so on, right? Some of these swing states and all, the guy just, has that single determined focus to get shit done for sure. And as of yesterday or as of today, he's been announced as part of this Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
Along with
Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah, another fantastic guy.
Why does the US government have a Department of Government Efficiency?
See, I think, at last count, they have some 450 or 500 government agencies, right? Including this FDA and all of these other stuff, right? All the 3-letter agencies, basically. And the point is, do you really need it, right? And this is absolutely applicable in India's case also, right? Do we need so many agencies? Do we need all of these overlapping jurisdictions? Do we need all these laws and policies and whatnot, right? Laws are easy to make, but very hard to get rid of. Same goes with agencies and so on. And over a period of time, it just becomes this thing that exists for its own sake, right? Elon famously, had said that it takes less time for him to build a rocket than actually launch it to get the clearance and everything, right? Which is a pretty telling statement, considering that, US is one of those, it's the hotbed of innovation, right? So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, man. I mean, startup folks getting involved in the government can, give that startup ethos and spirit. That's really
Founder
what
mode.
I think people are optimistic about, like founder mode. Yeah. But dude, I'm so happy that we're done with this. I mean, I got tired of people who vote in like Bomanalli and Koramangala and like Indiranagar, like, talking about US elections all this while. So yeah, I'm glad it's done. And congrats to President Trump.
Yes. Well, let's see what's the new big headlines in the US now.
Yeah. Plenty of action for sure.
Okay, but the biggest headlines today was the public market debut of Swiggy. There's a lot of love flowing between Zomato and Swiggy all across Twitter. Dipinder Goyal posted a lot of tweets, which was reverted back by Swiggy folks as well. The shares of Swiggy made the debut at a premium of 8% from the listing price of 390 rupees. They listed at $420. This also marked the second largest IPO in India, raising around $1.4 billion in the market. Now, we have seen the public markets are kind of trending downwards. My portfolio is on the red. I don't know how yours are doing.
I haven't checked.
But yeah.
That's how you know it's a bear market, when you don't check.
But what do you make of the IPO?
Man, it's a milestone moment for sure, right? And this whole food delivery space, both the companies in it, have listed, right? Zomato and Swiggy, and we've seen how Zomato stock has like kind of turned around over the last year or so. I think this is fantastic, right? I mean, also, I mean, we have another set of people that we should ask for a party, like quite literally, right? I mean, about 9,000 crores in ESOPs, right? Many people are going to make 10 crores, 100 crores,
There are
and
500
so
people who will be fresh crorepathi's.
on. Wow. I mean, one thing for sure, real estate in Koramangala and elsewhere is going to go up, right? But yeah, this is absolutely amazing, so good luck to the Swiggy team. I think this is the start of another journey, I would say, right? I've always been a Swiggy fan. I preferred Swiggy over Zomato, so I'm happy that they're listed. Yeah.
Great. But it's not only the food delivery business that's going to see the like how you're comparing Swiggy and Zomato, right? It's also their quick commerce business, which very soon Zepto will be, coming into this mix in the public markets. And also their B2B segments as well. It's called Zomato Hyperpure.
Probably, I don't know.
Or something like that has become a major revenue driver for Zomato, right? We are yet to hear similar news from Swiggy. Well, another big winner of this IPO round was Process, right? They were one of the early institutional investors in Swiggy, and they made a bank of $2 billion from those investments.
Wow.
Right? They sold shares worth $500 million in this IPO. But still, they have managed to retain around 25% stake in the company. So still a massive controlling stake.
Amazing. I mean, glad that, they've backed Swiggy all the way. In fact, I mean, I had seen a post of one of the partners from Elevation Capital as well, who was perhaps the first institutional in Swiggy, right? They've made a shit ton of money as well, right? So great, man. I mean, we need more of these liquidity stories, right? Just simply helpful from a venture capital startup ecosystem perspective, for sure.
Yeah, and all of these folks who we have had on the podcast, work in Swiggy, Zomato, and where not. I mean, guys, reach out, man. It's okay.
Send us a couple of beers. I mean, yeah.
The IPO markets still remain hot. We have the Blackbuck IPO coming up, and more exciting IPOs we'll be seeing before the close of this year. Moving on from Swiggy to Zomato. Zomato has made some major announcements on the platform. One being the ability to resell event tickets. And the second is that you can now buy orders that have been cancelled by users at a discounted rate. Let's talk about the ticket resale. Earlier, a couple of months back, Zomato acquired Paytm Insider, right? And that was a brilliant marketing move, right? Soon after that, they announced the Zomato Live, where Dua Lipa will be headlining. Are you going for that? No. Okay, the look on the face says it all.
Yeah.
But you would have loved to go for
I'm not a Dua Lipa fan. I mean, no.
Oh, come on.
Not throwing shade or anything.
You cannot say you're not a Dua Lipa fan. Okay, some really questionable comments there. But now, Zomato users can resell their tickets directly on the Zomato app if there is a change of plans. The user can set the resale value of the ticket to up to 2x the original amount. And then Zomato will cancel the original ticket and issue a new ticket for the user. There have been concerns around this as well. While it's a very welcome move, there have been concerns about how resellers, capture these tickets and then resell it for exorbitantly high prices. But the question arises, how can you prevent resellers on Zomato, on the platform like Zomato itself?
You can't. I mean, you can have a few of these riders and checks and balances in terms of limiting how many tickets a person can buy and how much you can resell and so on. Okay, but it's good. I mean, I don't see this as fundamentally like earth-shattering innovation as such, but it's good. It's good.
Right.
Yeah.
The other feature they launched is called Food Rescue. Now Zomato has
that's interesting.
Very strict policy on no order cancellation after it has been, accepted by the restaurant. But now what Zomato has announced that if a customer is located within 3-kilometer radius of the delivery partner, if someone cancels the order, this order will show up on rest of the Zomato user's account, and you can, buy that at a discounted rate. Now, of course, some items will not be part of this program, like your smoothies, your ice creams and all, which really get spoiled over a short period of time. But this move is likely to save Zomato a lot of money because around 4 lakh orders per month go on a waste.
Wow. Interesting move for sure, right? I mean, this kind of reminds me of Airbnb also and the kind of innovations that they've been doing in their product. They're soon launching this host marketplace, right? So let's say you have a property and you don't want to go through all of the trouble of actually listing, managing the property and so on and so forth. You can just pretty much hire a host from the marketplace, determine like a revenue share and just chill. It's amazing, right? I mean, and man, it just hit me that Airbnb is going to be like a 20-year company in like a couple of years or so, 2 or 3 years, right? And in that time, Airbnb has become like a verb in itself, right? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Really crazy. I mean, all these platforms, man, whether it's Uber, Airbnb, Swiggy, Zomato, all of these folks have fundamentally changed our lives, I should say.
It's changed our lifestyle. I mean, yeah. Freshworks is also currently in the news due to significant announcements involving layoffs and a simultaneous stock buyback program. Now, this has raised a lot of eyebrows across the industry and people have been voicing their concerns. Freshworks announced that it would lay off around 660 employees, which represent around 13% of its workforce. And at the same time, they've revealed that a 400 million buyback round is in progress. One of the persons to voice their concern was Sridhar Vembu sir, who publicly criticized Freshworks for its decision to lay off employees. He says that a company with over $1 billion in cash reserves, which is still growing at a decent rate, should not be laying off workers. The timing of the layoffs also is quite dicey. They recently announced their reports and they're witnessing a 22% year-on-year growth in revenue. They have reached approximately $187 million in revenue in the latest quarter. Now, for a company like Freshworks, where still a lot of innovation can happen, do you think it makes sense to either lay off people to streamline operations, or do you want to just move them into other, some moonshot projects or something and take a bet?
See, fundamentally, it ties to the ethos of an organization, right? I mean, you can't do one or the other if you don't truly are the type of organization that is built for that, right? Zoho has been forever the type of organization that absorbs people, learns from them, coaches them, and then Zoho pretty much never hires anyone at the lateral level. You don't, very, very, very rarely they hire someone at 10 or 15 or 20 years experience, right? It's all homegrown talent.
Right.
And they, again, I mean, famously, they have 50 plus products and they've been around for 25 years, $1 billion in revenue and so on, right? So
the average tenure in Zoho, I think, is what, 7 years?
Dude, they have 1,000 people with 10 plus years experience. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's like absolutely insane, right? So that's a different ethos. You don't make those FU salaries at Zoho, right? But I mean, you learn, you grow, and you can become someone significant. And if that is your ambition and so on, I mean, that's what it is, right? Meanwhile, I mean, Freshworks has a very different approach, right? I mean, it's not bootstrapped. Clearly, it's like, raised a bunch of money, went IPO, and people made money, right? I mean, I know a lot of folks who've made money from Freshworks as well.
Yet did not give us a call.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. A couple of them have bought me beers, but yeah, we'll leave it at that, right? But it's a very different approach to that. I mean, the money has been more through all of the ESOPs, buybacks and liquidity and whatnot, right? I mean, that's what has happened, and people seem to be okay with that also, right? I mean, so it's like both of these have their pros and cons, I would say, right? I mean, you can't expect one to behave like the other. Vembu sir definitely has a point, but then, I mean, I think given the times that we're living in, I don't know, man. I mean, it's just the nature of the times that we're living in, right? So Vembu sir has had an interesting exchange with Vijay Rayapati, who is the founder of Atomic Work, right? And they've gone back and forth on, capitalism, socialism, and, all of these big words and phrases. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't think you can be like, I don't think you can be very flippant and say like, look, this is capitalism. I'm going to lay off like 600 people and let them figure their life out types, right? Doesn't work like that, right? I mean, we often expect people to stay loyal to companies, to build with the company and so on. But if this is the nature of employment where, people can wake up one day and realize they're not required for some arbitrary reasons like operational efficiency, then, I mean, why do you expect them to be loyal to you, right?
It cuts both ways.
It cuts both ways, and but I'll be the first to acknowledge that it's supremely hard to manage a large company. Okay, I mean, it's just really hard. We just spoke about the US government having this Department of Government Efficiency, right, and cutting down all these agencies and whatnot. Over a time, I mean, bloat builds up, right, and unless you're really conscious of it, I mean, it's super difficult, right. Bottom line is, Freshworks and Zoho are two very different organizations. I don't think one can expect the other to behave like it. Both of them have their own pros and cons, right? And it's up to people. I mean, what they want to pick and choose, basically. But both are really important for the ecosystem. Correct. That much I'll tell you. Yeah.
And both are also like the leading faces of Indian SaaS.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like Zoho began SaaS for us, right? 25 years back or whatever. And Freshworks took it to the next orbit. So both of them are like legendary companies. The founders are absolute legends as well, right? Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. IIT Madras has announced a partnership with the Indian Space Research Organization to establish a center of excellence focused on fluid and thermal sciences. ISRO will provide an initial funding of 1.84 crores to support the establishment of this center. The key focus of this center of excellence is going to be on thermal management in spacecraft, combustion stability in hybrid rockets, and thermodynamics of cryogenic tanks. IIT Madras has had a long-standing relationship with ISRO, right? And this dates back to 1995 when ISRO set up the ISRO IIT M-Space Technology Cell. But the university itself, we have joked multiple times in our discussions, there's something magical about the waters in IIT Madras, right? We have seen some fantastic startups come out from there, like Aether, Agnikul Cosmos, Zetwork, Unifor, right? And seems like the space agency of the country is also parking its money there.
15 years back, right? Or even 20 years back. I mean, if you spoke to any of these IIT folks, I think number one option was consult. Number one was actually IB, investment banking. Second was consult. Third was like perhaps doing the master's in the US and so on, right? A distant fourth or fifth or maybe 10th option was like startups.
Yeah.
Okay. This was 15 years back. 15 years is not a long time. I'm not that old, right? But today, right, that's almost flipped, startups are the number one option for all of these folks at IITs, right? And these are some of the best and brightest folks in India, right? If we're able to harness that innovation to actually build things that India needs, right? Build IP, I think that's going to be phenomenal. And organizations like ISRO are like absolutely amazing at this, right? They have all of the institutional capacity, they have the resources and so on. So if they work closely with all these institutes, I mean, who knows, we can come up with cutting edge innovation for sure.
Starlink is seeking Indian security clearance for its satellite broadband internet. Elon Musk is in the process of getting the necessary clearances to launch the services in India. India's telecom minister, Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, announced that the Indian government is open to granting a satellite internet license to Starlink, but this will be based only if they meet the compliance with specific security and regulatory requirements. Now, this primarily involves laws around, local data storage and mandating that all user data must be stored within the borders of the country. Initially, Starlink was not in favor of it, but now it seems to have become more malleable towards it. What is interesting is that unlike other, broadband services where all the spectrum is auctioned out, this allocation is not going to be auctioned, but rather going to be directly given by the government. Now, I'm not sure how the other industry players are going to react to it, but we know Jio and Airtel are the leaders in providing broadband internet, and BSNL has done a fantastic job catching up as well. But now for Starlink, it's the way it is priced currently, I think it's around 1.5 lakhs per year. So how they're going to bring down the cost down for a country like India is
the connection is supposed to be fantastic, right? I mean, you have people like Joe Rogan, for example, raving about it, like using it in the mountains at with
zero mountain में भी आता है ना, like
zero issues and whatnot.
BSNL आता है हमारा भी.
Zero issues and whatnot. But look, I think the more pressing problem is a national security issue. Okay, there's no telling what this data can do, right? And we saw that this came into the fore even with the Russia-Ukraine war as well, right? I mean, Starlink was a key part of that. So I'm not very sure actually. I mean, as a consumer, I would love more options, but I think I would prioritize national security above all else. We should have stringent norms in terms of how they can operate. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I mean, I think we have perhaps the cheapest data cost in the world, right?
So the internet consumption in India only has surged from around 300 MB in 2014-15 to around 20.5 GB as of March. The average download speeds have improved from 4.18 Mbps to 105.85 Mbps.
See, even if Starlink is accessible in India, they'll have to compete like hell to sort of beat these costs and
I don't
all
think
of that.
Motabhai is gonna look at it very lightly.
Of course not, right? They're going to compete like hell to sort of be cost effective, economical to the Indian audience.
Another interesting thread that we'll see emerge out of this, right? The Prime Minister has also been talking a lot about 6G internet services. Right now, how satellite broadband is going to play out with terrestrial broadband, how that will complement each other. Again, with a nice innovation to see.
New and exciting innovations brought to you by Gunjan Saha.
Stoa founder Raj on a LinkedIn post announced that he'll be shutting shop on Stoa School. During the lockdown, Stoa School was doing really well, right? They came with this whole alternate MBA program and people were really appreciative of it. The testimonials that users were writing on LinkedIn, Twitter after they're completing the program, well, I in fact considered doing it as well. But for whatever reason, I did not do it. But Raj mentions in the post, right? Post the lockdown, there has been a serious dip in the number of enrollments you are having. Yeah. Now, one of the options he had was to pivot to an offline mode, but he says the economies of scale just wouldn't work with it.
Yeah, pretty much everyone's pivoted, right? I mean, Byju's, of course, is, I
think, is Byju still operational?
They're bankrupt, so I'm not very sure. Okay. But Unacademy, right? They're offline and
GrowthX, they also started online now. They moved offline.
Yeah. So that is the way forward, right? For sure. I mean, this was like a COVID phenomena where everyone thought that, all education will be 100% online, but that obviously hasn't panned out. But I did like Stoa's promise of B skills for a startup, right? Yeah. I think that promise still holds. There are certain skills that are uniquely suited for startups, and building curriculum on that is absolutely amazing, right? I mean, look, you go to one of these IIMs or any other MBA college and you learn something that happened 25 years back. I'm sure some of that is generally applicable, but none of that is specifically relevant, right. To the kind of stuff that you would perhaps do on a Monday morning. And Stoa, that was a big promise with Stoa, right? I mean, that we will give you actionable insights and education that matter to a startup today, right? So you don't have to make that stretch from what you learned about something that happened 25 years back to, what's happening now, right? So I think that central promise holds. But startups are hard, man. They're incredibly hard. A startup success is an outlier. So yeah, I wish the Stoa founders and the team all the very best. I hope they come back in another avatar and perhaps work on another transformative idea. Let's see.
Okay, let's talk about some of the fundraisers from the week. Space tech startup Galaxy raised $10 million from Mounttech Growth Fund, Mela Ventures, Speciale Invest, Idea Forge, and Samarthya Investment Advisors. Robotics startup Sindler raised $10 million from Paystone, Athera Venture Partners, Speciale Invest, and InfoEdge. Drone technology firm Maruth Drones raised $6.2 million from Lok Capital. We are going to shoot an episode with Sindler folks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We were due to shoot with them, but had to cancel that. But we will shoot with them. They make these very cool robotic arms.
I'm excited to visit their
office. Check it out. So we're going to do a field shoot for this, right? So we'll show you all of the cool stuff. Yeah.
Folks, also let us know what do you think of the new format of episodes we have been putting out. We are trying to, visit founders in their office, see all the cool stuff that they are doing in their home ground, and bring the stories to you right from there. So that's it for this week's roundup. We hope you have enjoyed this discussion. We'll be back again with more exciting updates, maybe in less than 3 weeks' time now. But yeah, the weather is changing in Bangalore. Folks, do take care of yourselves. It's a flu season going on.
Yeah,
Roshan,
I think I'm down with something.
Seems to be off the charts. Half sleeve, full body.
All right, it's time to wrap up. Thanks for joining us, folks. And if you have suggestions on who we should host on the podcast, let us know. And until next time, ta-da.
Bye-bye.